up on We Talk News this week, is rescheduling on deck? Multiple reports out of Washington, D.C. include that long-awaited major change for the industry might happen by the end of this week, or next week, or perhaps the end of the month. Plus, MedMen closes 2 more dispensaries in Northern California, and Ultra Health, New Mexico's largest dispensary, is closing its doors, but Massachusetts sets its 6th straight annual sales record. While Pennsylvania's governor, he wants his state to move forward fast to get adult use sales open. Plus, the NBA and WNBA welcome a CBD-based beverage as a new sponsor. That's the first time that's happened. Coast to coast cannabis coverage on We Talk News with Alaina Pinto. Next!
We are pro-cannabis media.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to another edition of We Talk News, Pro Cannabis Media's weekly roundup of cannabis news items from coast to coast. I'm Alaina Pinto. There are a few media companies who regularly cover the cannabis space: Benzinga, MJ Biz, Cannabis.net, and Tom Angel's Marijuana Moment. All have reports that something is imminent regarding the long-awaited descheduling of cannabis, but no word yet as of when we recorded this. One insider in DC is Adrian Sneed, an attorney who has been right in the middle of descheduling debate and safer banking. So in other words, he's a connected lobbyist. But our man in DC is Andrew Behringer, and he has more on whether these rumors will be days, weeks, or months.
I am Andrew Behringer, and this is the DC area report for We Talk News. There has been growing speculation in recent days about a potential imminent announcement from the Biden administration regarding changes to federal cannabis policy. Industry insiders and prominent journalists have signaled that an announcement could come within days about moving cannabis from a Schedule I to a Schedule III under federal drug laws. However, an administration official has moved to wave off this speculation. They say that rumors of an imminent announcement are premature. The official gave no details on the actual timeline for a decision. Now, it's important to note that in December 2022, Health and Human Services did already recommend rescheduling cannabis to a Schedule III. Still, rescheduling would require administrative and legislative actions. It would not equal full legalization, but it could facilitate research and banking for the cannabis industry. Many believe an announcement will still come this year, perhaps for political advantage ahead of the 2024 elections. But for now, despite the rumors, the White House is signaling major policy changes are not imminent. I am Andrew Behringer, reporting for We Talk News.
In New York State, a federal judge has given the green light to the Office of Cannabis Management to start issuing licenses again. Governor Kathy Hochul has made her displeasure known of that disaster that has been following the rollout of that state's adult use regulations and operations.
We Talk News is sponsored by the Union Square Travel Agency, a new travel agency in New York City. This Union Square Travel Agency specializes in journeys of a different kind. They sell cannabis. Visit them at 13th and Broadway in New York City or log on to unionsquaretravelagency.com. Cannabis can impair concentration and coordination. Do not operate a vehicle or machinery under the influence of cannabis. Concerned about your cannabis use? Text HOPENY or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or visit oasas.ny.gov/Hopeline.
The saga of MedMen continues out in California. One of the first dispensaries to open in LA has now shuttered its doors and cleaned off their shelves. MJ Biz Daily released its 1-month report on MedMen, sharing the sad saga of a company that was once worth billions and now is not paying invoices and abruptly shuttering stores without warning. Internal mismanagement and an overregulated market worked against MedMen over the past few years. Since the beginning, Oklahoma's legal cannabis market has been a nightmare. And now some of the first marijuana medical grows are suing the state over unfair inspections and regulations. The Oklahoma Bureau of Narcotics will hold up any license renewals until inspections have been made. But now it's time for the Arizona Cannabis Report with Karen Black.
I'm Karen Black from Greenfinger Consulting with the Arizona Cannabis Report for Weed Talk News. The controversy over Arizona's social equity program continues, and Mint Cannabis is in the middle of it. The Guadalupe-based MSO is accused of squandering for social equity licenses and using them as placeholders. Here's what's going on. Mint opened a 4-store cannabis outlet in a single suite in a strip mall in El Mirage, supposedly to help license holders meet the mandatory October 8th opening date last fall. The company has been upfront with the Department of Health, which oversees licensing, and has done nothing illegal. The city of El Mirage also gave the 4-stop shop a thumbs up. Despite its do-good intentions and transparency, Mint Cannabis has come under a lot of fire. The company did not respond to our request for comment. Surprise! The Phoenix metro area will soon get another dispensary, the first one ever for the city of Surprise, which until now has been an anti-cannabis holdout. The Planning and Zoning Commission awarded a conditional use permit for a dual medical and adult use dispensary to Scottsdale Cannabis real estate developer, Zoned Properties. They've tapped Sunday Goods to run the 30,000 square foot facility once it's built, which will be its third store in the valley. City officials estimate the dispensary will contribute around $200,000 a year in tax revenue. Meanwhile, the Waste Management Phoenix Open Golf Tournament is feeling the chill with some uninviting weather, but that's not stopping Curaleaf Scottsdale from throwing a big bash right across the street from the event, billing itself as the unofficial 420 destination. In an official nod to Arizona's cannabis industry, this year's tournament commissioner is George Simpson from Arizona vape company Timeless. And for those of you waiting on the edge of your seats for the 2023 High Times Phoenix Cannabis Cup People's Choice winners, the reveal's been delayed until February 13th. You can watch it live on High Times Facebook page or check back with us next week for the scoop, along with some Arizona cannabis legislative updates. That's this week's Arizona Cannabis Report. I'm Karen Black from Greenfinger Consulting reporting for Weed Talk News.
Across the country, there is starting to be a crackdown on selling hemp that can get you intoxicated or high. Many states have banned the Delta 8 and THCA cannabinoids that make up the product. And our man from Cannabis Legalization News is Thomas Howard, and he has more from Illinois.
Hey everybody, it's Tom. I'm a cannabis lawyer out of Illinois, here to update you as to what's going on in that state. We have a new rule for hemp that should shut down THCA flower from being sold in head shops, and actually redefines cannabis to include cannabis flower and changes the definition of hemp to total THC as opposed to Delta 9 THC. This has gone so far that some cities are giving takedown notices to hemp shops. For example, Aurora, Illinois passed their own municipal ordinance to ban hemp shops from selling THCO or Delta 8 THC or all these other hemp derivatives that are out there. And that's really the big news out of Illinois. They have still not announced the next 55 licenses that were awarded back in July. So we hope to have that report soon. But there has been a lawsuit filed from those 55. One of the social equity sponsors was trying to purchase the entire license in BLS 5, which is Chicago, where they are trading currently for about $2.5 million for a 94% discount or $150,000. We'll see if the courts will bless that, because if they do, it is a blueprint for wealthy people to exploit social equity in the state. Who knows how that's going to turn out? If you want to learn more about it, tune into our show on Sunday at Cannabis Legalization News. Thanks.
The Sunshine State may be moving toward full legalization, which Florida Governor and former presidential candidate Ron DeSantis alluded to on the campaign trail. And this week, a House subcommittee gave the green light to advance a bill that would make it easier and cheaper for service-disabled military veterans to access medical cannabis by waiving their annual $75 patient registration and renewal fees. The proposal, known as HB 1435, passed 14-1. Another measure, HB 1269, seeks to set THC limits on cannabis products, which signals a possible step forward for legalizing adult use cannabis in Florida. At least Oregon doesn't need to worry about that, but there are plenty more issues. And so here's Marianne's report this week.
I'm Marianne from Alibi with this week's Oregon Cannabis Report for Weed Talk News. Last year saw an upheaval in the Oregon Liquor and Cannabis Control Board, the OLCC. New leadership is now in place and is working to improve the relationship with licensees and the industry. Director Prinz and his leadership team met with the cannabis industry leaders this week to forge a new path in collaboration, open communication, and positive direction. The meeting focused on national issues and also local issues. The legislative session this year is a short session, so there is a short window of time for any new legislation to get passed. There is a cannabis omnibus bill, which includes items such as a population-based licensing system. As reported a number of times, Oregon has an oversaturation of licenses and product. A temporary moratorium of new licenses was issued a couple of years ago and is now expiring. The current legislation would make it a permanent system based on population. So new licenses would only be available when Oregon's population increases past the threshold levels. And finally, as reported by Benzinga, Jefferson Packing House, an Oregon-based cannabis distribution company, has sadly retracted its federal lawsuit challenging the state's ban on the interstate trade of marijuana. The company's argument centered around the Dormant Commerce Clause of the U.S. Constitution, suggesting that state law unfairly discriminates against interstate commerce. With legal proceedings poised to advance, the case took a surprising turn when Jefferson Packing House's attorney, Andrew DeWeese, withdrew the lawsuit just before the scheduling hearing. This decision followed a relevant ruling in Washington state, where a judge determined that the Dormant Commerce Clause did not apply to cannabis given its federal legal status. That's the Oregon Cannabis Report for this week. I'm Marianne with Alibi for Weed Talk News.
While Israel right now is involved in the war against Hamas, officials in that country continue to ease the way for medical professionals to approve medicinal patients. Israel's Ministry of Health wants doctors to have broader discretion when administering the plant medicine. Meanwhile, the Canadian public company Aurora is expanding to Australia with the acquisition of Med Relief out of that country. Our man in public stocks is Doug Miller, who is high on Wall Street.
I'm Doug Miller from High on Wall Street with this week's cannabis stock report for Weed Talk News. Aurora Cannabis reported a third quarter loss and acquired Med Relief Australia. Aurora Cannabis reported their third quarter report and it did lose 2 cents per share versus the 1 cent per share that was estimated. Shares have lost about 16.8% since the beginning of the year. They did post revenues of $64.4 million compared to a year ago. It was $61.1 million. Aurora also announced that they acquired Med Relief Australia, which holds the number 2 position in medical cannabis in the Australian market. They acquired the 90% they did not own for 50 million AUD. That's the Australian dollar, which is about $32.4 million. Aurora is paying 9.45 million AUD in cash and the remaining in Aurora Cannabis stock. This acquisition gives Aurora Cannabis a firm footing in the medical cannabis market in Australia. This is one of the largest medical marijuana markets. Let's see how this all affects the stock chart. It's trading around 40 cents and it dipped today with that earnings report, but it's curling up the run. Watch for dips as it's setting up. Make sure you trade smart. And that's this week's Cannabis Stock Report. Reporting for Weed Talk News, I'm Doug Miller.
A riveting saga continues to unfold from Nevada. Multi-state operator Planet 13 has filed a lawsuit in Los Angeles Superior Court, seeking $16.5 million from Casa Verde Capital, co-founded by Snoop Dogg and El Capitan Advisors, alleging complex fraud. The suit claims those entities lured Planet 13 into investing $21 million through misrepresentations of their success in cannabis investing. They called El Capitan a sham that was out to enrich Casa Verde at their expense. In response, Casa Verde denied any wrongdoing, claimed to be victims of fraud themselves, and expressed disappointment over Planet 13's legal approach. Planet 13's lawsuit not only demands monetary damages, but also the appointment of a receiver to manage El Capitan Advisors, aiming to safeguard and return client funds. This legal drama highlights the intricate and sometimes perilous financial dealings within the ever-evolving cannabis industry. Well, now it's time for the Garden State Report.
Hey guys, back with the New Jersey area news for Weed Talk News. I'm Goldsberry, and if you love cannabis and fashion, there is a place for you in New York Fashion Week coming to town, and that place is Work and Roll. Work and Roll is producing the very first cannabis community series of Fashion Week shows. And this is going on this week from February 8th to the 11th, powered by Days Dispensary, which is a new adult use dispensary that is in the Union Square area. It's taken over the new old Dylan's Candy space. If you know that, you'll be able to find it. And what will be shown at this amazing Fashion Week series of shows? Wearable tech, LED wearable tech. There'll be an LED wearable tech gallery. The designers will be on hand, and it will be a consumption-friendly environment. So check that out. If you need more information, head on over to Work and Roll and their Instagram for more information and ticket information. In other news, New Brunswick area dispensary Puffin and the workers there and the owners have decided to voice their support for the United Food and Commercial Workers Local 360. They are in support of unionizing. This is great for workers in the cannabis industry to unionize via the Labor and Peace Agreement. And what's happening is that the Local 360 has been a huge supporter of cannabis workers unionizing, and they are a recognized leader in organizing cannabis workers. So if you are working at a dispensary, this may be something that you want to look into if you're a bud tender, manager, or general manager working at dispensaries, like the workers at Puffin. I'm Jill Goldsberry with Weed Talk News, and that's what's happening in our local cannabis news in New Jersey. Thanks for watching and have a great day.
Pennsylvania governor wants his state to move forward fast to get adult use sales open. So here's Claudia Post.
I'm Claudia Post from Scarlet Express, and I'm here in the Keystone State, Pennsylvania, reporting for Weed Talk News. In his annual budget on Tuesday, Governor Josh Shapiro addressed legalizing marijuana, recreational marijuana, that is. He unveiled a $48 billion spending plan that proposes to significantly increase funding for public education and legalizing recreational marijuana. Great. It's time for Pennsylvania to get on board with other states across the country, adding regulations to the industry. We are losing a tremendous amount of revenue, and that was his main focus. Pennsylvanians are already consuming cannabis, so we can at least regulate it to ensure people's safety. Congratulations, Governor Shapiro. A Pennsylvania district attorney and gun rights advocate have filed a lawsuit in federal court seeking to overturn the ban preventing medical marijuana patients from buying and possessing firearms. This comes as the question over the constitutionality of federal gun ban for people who use marijuana. Warren County, Pennsylvania District Attorney Robert Green is the person who filed the suit. He is a local prosecutor, and he intends to lawfully allow the purchase, possession, and utilization of firearms and ammunition so that he may exercise his constitutional right to keep and bear arms for self-defense and all other lawful purposes. But currently, of course, he's banned from doing so. I hope that he not only wins the lawsuit, but it sparks the federal Congress to do something and solve the problem, because many Americans who have been disenfranchised from their Second Amendment rights are being forced to choose either between treating their symptoms with medical marijuana or exercising their constitutionally guaranteed right. The Medical Marijuana Advisory Board voted in favor of recommending that certified registered nurse practitioners be able to certify patients for the medical marijuana patient program here in Pennsylvania. That's a wrap from my home state, Pennsylvania. I'm Claudia Post from Scarlet Express, and I'll be back next week to talk about what's hot and what's not. From Weed Talk News, have a fabulous week.
We Talk News is sponsored by the Union Square Travel Agency, a new travel agency in New York City. This Union Square Travel Agency specializes in journeys of a different kind. They sell cannabis. Visit them at 13th and Broadway in New York City or log on to unionsquaretravelagency.com. Cannabis can impair concentration and coordination. Do not operate a vehicle or machinery under the influence of cannabis. Concerned about your cannabis use? Text HOPENY or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or visit oasas.ny.gov/Hopeline.
You know, there is one person you don't have to tell that there is a big football game in Las Vegas. It's our Brandon Jones. He is the number one Kansas City Chiefs fan and someone who we know is going to fly high no matter the result. So here's Brandon's Missouri report.
Hey everybody, it's Brandon Jones with P Green Distribution with Missouri Cannabis Report for Weed Talk News. And yes, it's the last Friday of the year because it's Super Bowl Sunday. And yes, Chiefs, Niners, here we go. What do you know? It's Missouri and California again. Seems like cannabis, football, Missouri cannabis. Yeah, we're going to fight you all the way. Yes, you beat us cannabis sales, maybe 1.4 billion. So a little bit things that are going to be going on this weekend, not only the game, but there's going to be a lot of people coming from outside of the state of Missouri to come watch the game. And you might be asking me why. Well, you can purchase cannabis in Missouri. So you can recreational come in from Kansas, purchase your flowers, your pre-rolls, whatever you would like, and then go to a private property. In Missouri, as long as it's a private property and ownership, you're allowed to consume. So there's going to be lots of backyards turned into projectors, lots of parties, and that's where you're going to be able to find cannabis consumed all over. So, yes, it's a little bit of weird laws. We don't like Kansas, sorry. My family actually drives one block over to pick up my son, so I don't go there. So there's lots of out-of-state people that are going to be coming in to enjoy the game and cannabis. So please, if you're anywhere in the area, do not take those items back to your state. You will get in trouble. Please consume them legally in the state of Missouri. Have fun. Go Chiefs. So I'm again, Brandon Jones with B Green Distribution with the Missouri Cannabis Report for Weed Talk News. Stay medicated and educated. Go Chiefs.
There's going to be a drive-through dispensary in Connecticut, but even that state is still struggling with a lack of product. The Manchester Planning and Zoning Commission approved this drive-through venture. And with more on that, here's Angie Seifert, our Connecticut cannabis correspondent.
I'm Angie Seifert from Skip Intro Advisors with the Connecticut Cannabis Report for Weed Talk News. I'll start by saying that anyone could still buy a caramel frappuccino on Spencer Street in Manchester, Connecticut. Yes, while this Starbucks closed in December and moved across the street, Air Wellness got town permission to convert the former Starbucks building into a dispensary for medical and adult use. Additionally, instead of purchasing a caramel frappuccino at the drive-through window, customers could pick up existing orders through this drive-through window. Being a Connecticut resident, I'm excited to pick up an eighth, consume legally, and then get that caramel frappuccino to munch on. Stratford Church could sue to block C3 from opening a dispensary at a former Johnny's Restaurant location. Last September, C3 was granted approval by the Zoning Commission to open the town's first dispensary. Now, the judge relied on his prior rulings in regulating liquor stores in the area. The lawsuit claims that a cannabis dispensary will cause economic loss to the church, including higher taxes resulting from increased costs to the town, to protect public health and safety, and the costs related to increase in substance use disorders and the need to educate the public, including children, of health risks related to smoking, drug use, and drug dependability. To me, this lawyer picked words and terms out of a hat to block this dispensary from legally opening for the health and well-being, yet the health and well-being to purchase cannabis legally. Finally, state and local authorities on Monday seized thousands of dollars worth of cannabis products from 6 smoke shops in Shelton that were also found to have sold tobacco and vape products to underage consumers. They did not have to provide identification. How could I forget? These stores not only didn't have proper licenses to sell cannabis, but also they were selling illegal cannabis products. There were approximately 1,900 products seized with an estimated retail value of $76,000. Now, these items include gummies, loose cannabis pre-rolls, high THC, vape products, several synthetic cannabinoids, and other THC products. So the employees at each store were charged for the sale of vape product to an underage person on the scene, and the investigation is ongoing and additional charges are expected. I'm Angie Seifert from Skip Intro Advisors with the Connecticut Cannabis Report for Weed Talk News.
We want to welcome and introduce you to our new Massachusetts correspondent, Frankie Brock. There's been a lot going on in the Bay State this week, including another record-breaking year of 2023.
I'm Frankie Brock from Sprout House Agency with the Bay State Cannabis Report for Weed Talk News. With all the doom and gloom in the Massachusetts cannabis industry, the Bay State still set a record for sales in 2023, closing at $1.5 billion, which is an increase of 5% year over year. In December of 2023 alone, Massachusetts set a monthly record with a total of $140 million in sales. Of course, having 338 dispensaries open and 21 delivery services definitely helps. Adult use marijuana establishments in the state grossed more than $1.56 billion in sales last year, surpassing total gross sales in 2022 by $78 million, marking the 6th consecutive year of record-setting growth for the industry since the first legal sales of the substance began in November of 2018. The CCC attributes the steady growth to more accessibility, lower prices, and reduced stigma. One of the most frustrating things about the history of this fledgling industry has been the lacking of recycling. Now, Treehouse Cannabis Company, with 3 locations in the Bay State, is implementing a recycling program for all those plastic containers. Last May, they started taking back pre-rolls, plastics, glass, and jars. According to the co-CEO, Wes Ritchie, they have already collected 400 pounds of materials. They even introduced an incentive program where you can get a $4 pre-roll just for sharing your plastics. Now about those disposable vapes. Cannabis social consumption events are popping up all over the Boston area. WCVB's Chronicle recently aired a cannabis social consumption feature last week, giving a platform for those who are already on the forefront of bringing this movement to life in the Bay State. Sam Cantor, owner of Sam Cantor Events and Dinner at Mary's, an infused culinary cannabis experience, also hosts canna yoga classes, collaborating with local businesses in the space for the perfect infused experience. She's partnered with brands such as Levia and Paper Crane Sun-Grown Cannabis. The Nomad chef, Travis Peterson, was also in town serving up another great culinary and cannabis infusion with his traveling dinner series. Meanwhile, the CCC is still trying to figure out the right model for the Bay State social clubs. There are now quite a few consumption-friendly spots and even more chefs who will create a personal infused dinner at your own residence. Sam Cantor of Dinner at Mary's has been cranking out prepared meals for 4 years now and is on to her next venture. You can visit each of these sites for more information and stay up to date on the next event. That's this week's Bay State Cannabis Report. I'm Frankie Prock from Sprout House Agency, reporting for Weed Talk News.
And finally today, CBD continues to penetrate professional sports. That's a sure sign of its efficacy as a healing and recovery agent. 2 basketball teams, the Brooklyn Nets in the NBA and New York Liberty of the WNBA, made headlines by partnering with Mind Drinks, a CBD sparkling beverage company. This is not Mind's first foray and acceptance in the professional sports world as a sponsor. They also sponsored the Chicago Cubs. The move comes on the heels of the NBA lifting its ban on cannabis and opens up new avenues for players to engage and invest in cannabis companies. Talk about a refreshing way to kick off the season. That's this week's edition of Weed Talk News. I'm Alaina Pinto, and remember, it's a whole new world of weed out there, so use it responsibly.